Hello, personal productivity enthusiasts and community. Welcome to Anything But Idle, the Productivity News Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club. I'm Ray Sidney-Smith,
And I'm Augusto Pinaud.
and we're your hosts for Anything But Idle. This is episode 101, 101, and this is for March 28th, 2022. Apple releases Universal Control and the productivity news this week. We talk about the productivity and technology news headlines of the week, and each week we do that by first talking about the articles and podcasts that come out in the productivity space, and then we do the technology articles after the break. And so, Augusto, start us off with our headlines for the articles this week.
Well, the first one is an article from Inc. Dan Price. He did a study in his company about what we're going to do. Are we going to come back, stay hybrid? What are we going to do? And he shared, said, I asked my employees what to work. 7% of them want to go back to the office full time. 31% want to be on a hybrid model, and 62 want to stay working at home. So what you do as a CEO. And he came with a policy that basically do come here and do the best job you have, and that's enough. And it is a really great thing to understand that's what your employees want. He said, if you get your work done, only answer or decline incoming calls. Gotta love technology when it works, and the rest of the time. So I was saying, if you get your work done, that's all that matters. And that is the remote policy for the company. You want to stay remote, stay remote. You want to come hybrid, come hybrid. You want to be full time, come full time. And I hope we start looking of more of policies like this.
Yeah, and this is the CEO, Gravity CEO, who in the past he gave everybody in the company a $75,000 salary, and that no matter what position you're in, the starting salary was 75,000, which sets you at basically the U.S. kind of COLA, cost of living, and so he's had very progressive policies as it relates to the company to begin with, and having this remote work first perspective, I think, is very powerful as an experiment. And I'm curious to see how the company does going forward, having this kind of remote work policy set in place. All right, next up.
So the next one is an article from Lifehack. Why am I too tired to sleep, and what to do? And as a person who for many years burned the candle from every angle that was possible, burn the candle, it was interesting because I don't know exactly when I begin looking self-care as a something important on my list. But it is something important. Sleep is something important for me. But the article goes into why you're too tired to sleep. What is overtiredness and how to prioritize back to sleep and focus on quality of your sleep. Consult your doctor and all that. But what goes in this article to me is self-care. We are in a culture where self-care has little to no value, sadly, for many people. And this is the kind of results of that.
Yeah, I know. I noticed one additional item on the list, which was sleep procrastination. This is the idea that people will put off sleeping because they feel put upon by the rest of their daytime work. And so, if you don't get what you want to do at night, then you procrastinate on going to sleep because you are kind of rebelling against your daytime activities. And so there is a little bit of that also that happens as well. So be mindful of the various reasons for resisting sleep in a way. And I can't more highly recommend a book called The Power of When, and just how Dr. Michael Breus, Breus, how Dr. Michael Breus talks about the concept of sleep psychology, and he uses a mixture between chronotyping and what is in essence a personality type indication. And it's interesting to see how those two combined, while I normally would shy away from the idea of using personality type indicators, like the Keirsey temperament sorter or those kinds of slight personality indicators for something like sleep, I was actually really impressed by the usefulness of the four. He created four chronotypes. Typically, we have three chronotypes, but he created four. They're all mammals, and it's just a really interesting book to look at. And you can go to the Power of When quiz.com, identify your sleep profile, and then start to really enact some of the concepts behind it very, very quick from there. John Hazel's noting that he does some sleep procrastination himself. But yes, absolutely, John, check out The Power of When. It's a really, really good book, and I've really appreciated reading it in the past. So, all right, Augusto, what's our next story this week?
Our next story was an article that I enjoy a lot, and it's titled Ambition is Overrated. And it's talking about an article that, or start talking about an article that Professor Newport wrote called Slow Productivity. And I love that it says, well, it's kind of a mini manifesto, probably the topic of his next book. But basically, what Professor Newport said is, well, the central goal of slow productivity is to keep an individual and a volume at a sustainable level. That may, and as the article mentioned, that may work in other countries. I don't think the US culture will give to that. I doubt that many cultures will give to that. But she made a really great point on the article, which is I don't really want to have less productivity or slow productivity. What I want to go is to sustainable productivity. And I think that's a concept to define really well. It's probably individual, but that is something that I can subscribe to. Let's work into how can we sustain our productivity. Do I think that we are going to work less based on what the article from Professor Newport said and all this? No, you can do that. But what it will be great is to understand what works for you, what works for your productivity, and how can you sustain it over time to avoid burning.
Yeah, so a couple things. I think that I disagree with the author here, and I actually this is going to be funny to say. I agree with Cal Newport, and so that's a not a first, but certainly a few. And
Maybe it's a second.
but the reason why I agree with him here is that he is differentiating the slow work movement. And if anybody doesn't know about the slow work movement, definitely look at the various permutations, the corollaries of the slow work movement that started way back when. I think it's Carl Honore, and that whole concept. But when we think about what he's talking about regarding slow productivity, what the author of this Medium article is talking about when she talks about sustainable productivity, I don't necessarily disagree with her, but she's again coming at it from a cultural perspective that somehow she should be working at a sustained level that is higher than everyone else, that somehow she needs to be so much better than everyone else. And that is for a number of reasons, right? Systemic cultural problems that we all have to face. But at the same time, what Cal Newport is really commenting on is Congressperson Takano's recent introduction of legislation to reduce the 40-hour work week to 32 hours on the federal level, which would mean that people would have 8 hours more every week of leisure time. And for those of you who know me, know how much I am a supporter of liberalism, and therefore liberal free society needs to make sure that we are embracing where we are going with regard to specifically US culture. And US work culture for a long time has decided that humans are widgets and that we should just put our human widgets into companies and somehow they would just crank along like any other component of a machine. I believe we are seeing a tide shift. We're seeing a change in perspective here. And that's where I think that I agree with Cal Newport. I agree with Newport's perspective that we are seeing a new a shift. We're just seeing a shift. employees have now the power, and it is up to them to be able to use that power to be able to shift the way in which work culture has been doing it for probably the past 50 to 70 years. And I think we have an opportunity here to see a change there. I don't necessarily know if that will affect me, right? I'm self-employed. I don't have the same shackles as many folks who are in the employed world and have those circumstances affecting them. But I see the opportunity there for someone who wants to work from someplace remotely, somebody who wants to have more time with their family, somebody who wants to do more things with their free time, and those things actually benefit the firm, right? When we talk about business or the firm, right? When people do things off clock, like knitting or going out there and reading a book on philosophy or reading a book on Legos, whatever it is they're reading, they're bringing those ideas that come from other disciplines into the business. And I think that cross pollination of ideas is where innovation comes from. And I think a lot of businesses hold themselves back because they want butt in chair time as opposed to having employees have a life work balance that actually promotes well-being, promotes, I would even say, happiness, but basically all the various terms, the affects that consider happiness, contentedness, joy, whatever those particular pieces are. So I'm curious to see where we're going here. Julie Bestry's noting that she hopes I'm right, and I hope I'm right too. Not for the sake of just being right, but really for the workforce itself. I think it would be really nice to see just a little bit of a shift of power here, so we have a little bit more balance between government, employers, in the private sector, and then of course the employees themselves. All right, Augusto, on to our next story.
So our next story comes from rest of the world, and they did last year, according to them, a profile on people in Tehran, Bangkok, Mexico, and they're coming now to revisit and where are they with the pandemic? What is changed from the ways they were working to how this year has changed, and it is a really interesting read to find people who it's happy at being at home, at being working at home, versus the people who are saying, yeah, you know what, I miss to work. And the florist who now our whole business move at home, and they are talking about companies, a couple, I think was in Bangkok, who saying, no, you know what, now we have figured it out. When one of us a conference call, the other one goes to the kitchen and come back and all that. And it is really interesting how this change, now that we're trying to come back, is really noticing that, or we're acknowledging how much has changed on the way we work, on the way we do things, and everything else. And I used to joke at the beginning of the pandemic that I got three loud roommates, especially the kids. Okay, but the reality is that I can, my day up to 3 p.m. that I pick them up at school, the office is really quiet. I can work with the door open. I can do all this. At 3 p.m., that dynamic changed completely. And I'm lucky I have a door, but not everybody have that. And how, but more importantly, how work has adapted to that. I remember having conference calls in which I was terrified to let the mute button out so they hear the children, shout at the background. And now that's normal and it's okay. In many environments, it's fine. People understand that the families are around. And that's a change I hope we never lose. Because it used to be that you have that work person, and that work person didn't have any life now or outside. And now it's a one thing. Yeah, people understand that you have animals, pets, and your dog bark and the kids are loud.
No, and funny enough, it's at the same time we've gotten a greater sense of technology in the sense that like Zoom and Google Meet all have noise cancellation technology now
Mm-hmm.
that they've caked into their tools, so that when you are talking on Microsoft Teams or Zoom or Google Meet, a lot of those background noises can actually be muted to some extent so that people don't actually have to, like, I'm very sound sensitive, so having you know uh people yelling in the background or hearing other background noise can be very disruptive to me. But really, the technology has done such a great job of making those pieces come together. And I know we have another article kind of on the flip side. So rest of the world covered folks around the world who are dealing with the pandemic. CNBC's Make It also had a topic on this. So we're going to go on to the next article.
Yeah, to the next article. Come on, pop-up windows. The next article is from CNN, and again goes into the same topic. 2 years later, remote work has changed millions of career. From moving across country, from people who finally took the leap, leave their corporate work, to people who, well, now they're enjoying the hybrid life, and they used to work, and have those deadlines, and now, well, they can balance. And again, for me, there is so much positive into this. How much things have improved, how much things have been humanized. Now it's okay that you have a life. It's okay that you have things, that things are part of your life, and that is really fantastic. It's rebalancing, but I think in a good way.
Yeah, sorry, I misspoke when I said that it was CNBC. It's CNN Business that
CNN.
did the little vignettes of these folks who changed their life. People moved cross country, people started new jobs, got new degrees. It was very interesting to read, and I highly recommend it to everybody to when we do put the article links out, to check it out. I thought it was very useful to see that there was a wide variety of experiences among people. And we should be mindful of the fact that while one person may love the notion of working from home, other people will really appreciate and enjoy going back to the office. I I,
Mhm.
I read that one little vignette of the college graduate who had been, going to school for 2 years, finishing off her degree, and then started a new job, and she was, stuck at home, and it was very difficult for her to kind of, get up to speed at the office. And while there is part of me that says we need to be training our graduates coming out of school better, right, and teaching our managers to onboard our new employees, new workforce, members better, so that they can thrive in a remote work first environment. There's also the side of me that appreciates where she's coming from, where she's like, I want to like be able to bump into a coworker and be like, oh, you have 5 minutes, let's talk about this thing, as opposed to all of this feeling of, well, I shouldn't probably bother people because I don't know what they're doing on the other side because it's opaque. She doesn't know what anyone else is doing on the other side. And they haven't adopted technology to help people know that stuff. And so I really do feel the balance of everyone's desires to kind of come together and be productive in that environment.
Yeah, and I think, you don't think this, but it's, when you read that as student, it's true. If you have never worked, if you don't, or you have limited experience, and suddenly you got new to this job and you don't know exactly what you're going to do, and now you get a laptop in the mail, it's like, okay. And it's not the technology, it is the all that experience, like it or not like it, to be in the office, to meet with the people. I don't miss it, but I get the why. If you have never had it, it is something new to experience, to learn. So I really think, again, I have said hybrid may be the option in the future, and should be the option for most people.
Yeah, John is noting that he would love the optional hybrid, and I agree. I think most people, if given the option, will have a few days in the office, a few days from home, or just having the flexibility to do so. Like, for example, if you are sick and you still feel good enough to work, and you have the option of remote work, then I would much rather employees choose that option. I would actually rather them, like, in an ideal world, they would just stay home and get better, right?
Mhm.
But we understand that we're in the real world, and so the second best option is you work from home and don't make me sick, right? And so it's one of the reasons why I've always had a very aggressive policy. Like if I hear you sniffle in my office, go home. I will pay for your time off. I do not want to get sick. And so, like I'm just one employer among many different employers. And so, like I just love the notion that someone can now make that choice, have that agency, and be able to work from home when they don't want to make their other coworkers, ill. So
Well, and I think it's something that we need to start for implementing at the school level. We experienced 2 years of living remotely, and then we shut them off. And I believe that's a mistake. It's not because of the pandemic or the COVID or the numbers. It's because that's going to be the future of the kids. And we continue teaching them how to work in 1950, but we are going to 2050. So it's a problem. Kids should be able to pick, I'm going hybrid, I'm going, and again, as we said in the first article, if your grades, if you can manage to be hybrid or remote in the school as well as work, if you can handle the workload and be responsible, why not let the kid pick?
yeah, absolutely. All right, we have covered the productivity articles this week so far. We're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, and then we'll come back with our technology articles. We're going to talk about our business segment. We're going to have also our announcement of our top 10 female productivity, technology, and organization experts for 2022. And then, of course, we'll have our featured story. So we will see you after the break in just about a minute.
While working in person may be normal for you, it's unlikely your coworkers are as interested in being productive as you are. Or working remotely or from home can be isolating, and there's something powerful about being with productive people, even virtually, that helps you be more engaged. If a flavor of these sounds familiar, Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club is for you. Co-working Space is a virtual work community designed to help members be more effective and efficient in their work and personal lives. At its core, we provide goal tracking and host focused action sessions throughout the week for accountability and camaraderie. Visit anythingbutidle.com/coworking to learn more. Co-working Space lives inside Personal Productivity Club, a digital community for personal productivity enthusiasts, so you can find people who use methods and tools you do too. Again, head over to anythingbutidle.com/coworking to see how Co-working Space can help you be more productive. And now, back to our show.
Welcome back, everybody, to Anything But Idle. I'm Ray Sidney-Smith, joined by Augusto Pinaud for the second half of the show, and this takes us along to our technology articles this week. Augusto, what's our first tech article?
Our first article is about Google Docs, and now it's going to let you draft emails in Google Docs. You can go create all the draft and then finally send it from there, find a person, write it, connect it. And I think this is great. I hope this solve the issue with emails and improve. Now that one of the things that this has great is if you live in Google Docs, this change the way you think about an email because you are used to use this product for long text. What means you slow down and think, or most people slow down and think. Therefore, the hope with this for me is that people now is going to use this Word Google Docs thing to slow down and write better emails. Because the problem many times on email is how poorly written they are.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how this actually works out. This feature is available in Microsoft Word and has been available in Microsoft Word for eons. I mean, for a very long time. And I don't know if there's really all that much uptick, all that much usage of the feature. And so I'd be very curious to see how many Microsoft users actually use this Microsoft Word feature to send an email from the document itself, and whether there are folks who are on the Google Workspace side where this will be something useful for them. I'm just really curious to see how people will use it, but it's good to see that they have added the feature to the Workspace environment. All right, next up.
So our next one is exciting. because basically Google Workspace, it's going to allow you to create externally friendly booking pages. So in other words, they are bringing Calendly into Google Calendar. And this is really exciting. I think this means platforms like Calendly or Acuity scheduling and the such are getting to the point of the masses. This is not going to be anymore the geek. This is going to be everybody getting the link, book with me, have an appointment with me, look into my calendar. And that's something that it's exciting for a person who used this so much every day. Seeing it coming to Google, it is really, really exciting.
Yeah, so just a couple of things for people to understand where we're coming from. This is for Google Workspace users. These are business accounts. It starts at business standard or higher. So if you're on one of the business starter plans, that's not going to be the case. So it has to be business standard or higher. And this provides an external booking page, as Augusto noted, similar to Calendly and OneSub, Schedule Once, those kinds of tools. But this is already a feature if you are inside of the kind of enterprise hull. So if you're already a Google Workspace user, you can use appointment slots to schedule things internally among team members. You can see everybody's internal calendar and be able to, based on their privacy settings, be able to see when they have availability. But the idea to be able to then provide this external page that people can be directed to is pretty powerful. I'm looking forward to seeing kind of how that all looks in real life, because if it can replace a Calendly in the system, I use a number of different calendaring tools in my own world, and if it can go ahead and do that, then I think this is going to be really, really powerful. I haven't seen it. I've got rapid release turned on for my domains. I haven't yet seen it roll out for me. They said up to 15 days starting on March 24th, 2022. So I haven't yet seen it. For those of you who are on the normal rollout, that'll start somewhere in around the week of April 6th. So you should start seeing it roll out on the scheduled release date. But remember, this is for Google Workspace Business Standard or higher, Enterprise Standard or higher, and then I think all of the education plans have them. So if you're Education Fundamentals, Standard Plus, all of the various ones, and then all the nonprofit customers also get it. So it's good that they're rolling this out for everybody, and it's kind of a shot across the bow for Calendly to like level up their capabilities. And I know that this isn't going to replace Calendly in a lot of ways, because Calendly has a lot more features, but tools like them really do need to get, I guess, better, right, in order to be able to keep their customers. But very, very interesting, because I think, how much money do I spend for all of these various calendaring tools that I don't have to now because Google is just baking it in. So it's going to be interesting to watch and see how that all comes to pass.
It is going to be really interesting, yes.
Yeah, but it's also a cultural thing. Like I've been seeing a lot of, and maybe it's just because I liked a few of those tweets, but now the algorithm is showing me more of these like, I think, bad takes of various folks being like, "Oh, I'm not going to complete your scheduling, link kind of power play." And of course, I don't see myself as being better than anyone else. So I'm just like, this is the most productive way for us to schedule a meeting. If you have a calendar link, send it to me and I'll schedule in yours. I don't care. You know what I mean? I just want it to be not a back and forth of, here goes a few dates, and then you send me a few dates, and then none of the dates work, and then we just go back and forth 5 times.
You see, I have heard about that, and I'm lucky. I have had one of those cases, and the email was not even about not doing that. Was the reason? Said, "Oh, let's meet it. Here is my link," and the person replied, "Here is my link."
Can only answer or decline incoming calls.
The sad part is that it's you who is calling me, according to this, because you call me, you dial me on Telegram earlier before the show, and this thing got stuck. Anyways, I apologize. And there was one person who just sent me his link and said, "Please follow my link and schedule with me," instead of the other way around. It wasn't a big deal. I didn't care. But I have not experienced that, but I have heard the same thing you have said. People get mad that you send them the link. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it'll be very, very few people. And for me, it's been purely an education point where people just didn't know what I was sending them. And so as long as I gave them clear instructions as to why I was sending it to them, then, it's one thing to be a jerk about it, but it's certainly another to just want to have a productive exchange. And I want to be focused on what I'm working on with a client, not calendaring with a client, so it's
Right.
like, if we want to get that out of the way so we can actually work together, this is the most efficient mechanism. And by all means, if they have a calendar link, I will always use their calendar link, because that just makes me happy to be able to sit down, look at my calendar, and choose the best time for me to meet them.
Mhm.
I always think it's like, me giving you my link is actually better for the client, because they get to choose their
Right.
best time
I agree with you.
to, you know what I mean? Like, they get empowered with that choice. And so for any of you who might come up against any friction, please be as useful to people in helping them understand that you having the link to somebody else's calendar puts you in the power position, because you get to choose when you're going to be best, in their calendar, not vice versa. And I consider that actually the more deferential position to be in. So anyway, moving on to Microsoft.
Well, Microsoft updates Outlooks, Teams, PowerPoint for the hybrid. And I have praised Microsoft for Teams. Teams have done a great work, and Microsoft really has worked really hard. And I don't praise them often, okay, but they have been really ahead of this remote and hybrid. And one of they're coming with many new features. One of those now is that when you get an invitation, you will be able not only to respond yes or no, but respond yes or virtually. So that way people know, okay, yes, he said yes, but he's coming virtually to the meeting. He's not going to be actually in the office. And like that, many other features. So it's a really interesting article to show what Microsoft has done or is doing for all this coming in the future for them.
Yeah, and I just want to point out to everybody that Google Workspace has these same features. So if you're for some reason feeling a little bit of, fear of missing out, so to speak, a little bit of FOMO,
news in Washington. I'm Jack Spear.
your entire system just wants to talk to us today. Anyway, so the idea here is that in Google you have basically the work locations feature, and you should be able to set those same work locations, and it's a little bit more robust than what Microsoft has here, but the same thing applies. You can then say, where am I attending from, and all kinds of other fun things. So it's good both Microsoft and Google Workspace are embracing this hybrid work, even though their employee policies may be a little bit different than what they're doing in their technology. It's really good to see that they are giving us the technological capabilities that really companies need. They need the flexibility right now. Okay, on to our next story.
Our next story, it's from Lifehacker. Why is the iPad Pro isn't worth the extra money? And I disagree mostly with the article. I love what Apple is doing with the iPads. They are bringing super quality products, but they are keeping the distinction between a clear distinction. This is our consumer line. This is our Pro line. And the machines don't need to be different. Some of the features need to be different. And the article goes into say, well, this is the same, this is the same. Well, there are two main things in this, or three main things. One is the screen. The screen on the iPad Air 5, that is what they're comparing with, it is different than the screen of the iPad Pro. The second thing is the port. The iPad Pro have a better port, a Thunderbolt USB 4 ports that the iPad consumer model do not have. And finally, capacity. Okay, the iPad Air 5 is limited to 256 gigabytes of storage, while the iPad Pro gets until 1 gig or 1
terabyte.
terabyte. Sorry, that is really, really good on Apple's side, in my opinion. When you look at both lines, you don't need to be a pro to understand, do I need this machine or not? You will know immediately. That will make your decision easier. And I think, again, it's brilliantly done on their part. If you go there and say 256 is not enough for me, then you already make the decision. Doesn't matter. And there has been a lot of roasting to Apple for this machine. No, I think they're doing really well on older line, making a super clear distinction on what machine should you get based on 3 or 4 specific things. Other than that, the machine will perform at the same level. And again, I think they're doing really well.
I was so getting ready to argue with you, but I agree with you. I was like, no, like really, you're absolutely right. I think that the I'm actually thinking about getting the iPad Air 5. I think that it's the perfect iPad for me, and I'm gonna save a couple $100. I'll buy all the peripherals necessary to be able to get it up to a state where it is. I just don't need the iPad Pro. I don't need that size. I want it to be smaller. I actually like the smaller footprint. You know that I like my iPad 10-inch, 7th gen. Like, it's just perfect. It's the perfect size for me. Everything's great about it. And the iPad Air 5 has 5G capability, so I can get the 5G card for it. And so everything about it is perfect for basically the prosumer that I am in terms of using it. And then someone who uses the iPad Pro as their primary main machine and needs that kind of horsepower, great, go for it, totally for them. So after hearing your argument, I'm going to say I agree with you. All right. Moving right along to our next story this week.
Oh, our next device is the Kobo Libra 2. The reader is starting to sell here in the States. So if you are interested into this, it is $159. It comes directly to have competition with Amazon and the Kindles. It's a 7-inch, so it's comparing to the Kindle Paperwhite, but allows you to have or to leave outside of the Amazon ecosystem. You could have the Kobo bookstore. You can do overdrive, so you can rent from libraries in the United States. So it's a great device, and it's good to see competition in the market.
Yeah, this is great. I think that it's really important for us to see the various options come to the United States and not just stay overseas in Europe and Asia. And so I'm just really, really happy to see the Kobo line continue to expand here to give competition. And so good to see. All right, onward.
The next one we have is FDA clears the first iPhone app from delivering insulin, or connects to an iPhone to deliver insulin, and the rollouts will start soon in the spring. But this is exciting because, or for me at least, exciting because I could not foreseen how much our devices, the watches and the phones, has turned into medical devices, and how much they have improved the quality of people who depend on things like insulin. So knowing that, a couple of friends who are insulin dependent, and have one of them who has now something that he needs to replace, but it gives them a consistent reading instead of trying to guess or trying to put insulin based on his guess or pinching himself. That thing is permanently reading, and he can pull his phone and it will tell him what is the reading, and based on that he will make a decision. And I think the more we see improvement technology into this area, the better it's going to be.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I think if it works, we should absolutely use the technology to make people's lives better. And so I'm just very pleased to see, the opportunity to see technology in this very lightweight way make people's lives so much better. So that's really, really great. And Julie's noting that she finds it intriguing, and oh yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and
That's really
she's
interesting.
talking about a product called Freestyle Libre, who already using the phone for continuous glucose monitor. I have seen it on my friend. I don't know exactly what he has, but it's exactly what you said. It is now looking, to be free, to be better.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Deb is asking appointment slots. Yes. I'm not sure what question you're responding to, Deb. So let me know, and I'm happy to clarify about the Google Calendar, Google Workspace appointment slots topic. All right, Augusto, I think We have an Amazon
This is
story.
the end of our news, and now we're going to our
I think we have
business
one
and-
more story. We have the Amazon Whole Foods story.
Oh, for some reason it's closed on my side. So Amazon opened the first Whole Food that is cashierless or using cashierless technology in Washington, D.C. And a second one is coming to Los Angeles. So Amazon basically is bringing the technology to get rid of the cashiers. You can do your own thing. You can scan your barcode. You can even scan the palm of your hand, and they will know it's you. And well, let's see what it is going to happen. But it is going to be interesting. At the end of the day, it's a 21,000 square feet location. That is not exactly a small grocery store.
No, I know exactly that Whole Foods. I've gone there many times in DC, and I'll actually be there in DC in a few weeks. So I will definitely be going there to check it out. I wanna see what it's all about. This is my first time. I haven't been to any of the Amazon Go stores or any of their other cashierless stores. So I've been really interested to see, since the other stores have been like bookstores and convenience stores, having a full grocery shopping experience in a Whole Foods just is a novelty, but I'm really curious to see how it all work out. So when I go, I will report.
I hope
back.
you report back.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, wonderful. Great, Deb. Yes, the appointment slots versus the external booking page. So we have basically both of them now within the Google Workspace environment. All right, moving right along to our business segment, Augusto.
So the first one is in Q4 2021, Apple led the wearable device, the marketing, beating the second place, Xiaomi, with almost 4 times the number of shipments. That's a lot. 4x of anything is a lot. And the second news we have is Notion, and Notion now will allow to start integrating Notion with a bunch of applications, Google Drive and Slack and Asana and others. So you will be able to do those integrations and do really, really well with that. On our final news for our business section is about Dropbox joining or CommandE joining Dropbox. I'm not that familiar with CommandE, but I'm sure you are.
Yeah, so I actually use CommandE. CommandE is Mac and Windows, basically keyboard shortcut. Command-E on the Mac, Control-E on the Windows. A bit of a branding problem, but Dropbox has now purchased them. What they do is you basically connect all of your cloud services. So say you're an Evernote user, but you're also a Dropbox user and Google Drive and. So you take all of these, you log into them, and now through a keyboard shortcut, Command-E or Control-E on the desktop environments, you just basically execute that code and you can search across all of them. Gmail, so you could just basically search, find what you need, and then it launches that thing that you were looking for. And so it creates this kind of omni index of all of the things. There are several different products out there that try to do this, but I just felt like Command-E was the best of breed in this particular category. The only missing element was that they stopped because they weren't having very good success with it. And I'm hoping they'll figure this out when Dropbox, gets their kind of claws on the technology. But they were having difficulty indexing the local system and kind of doing both local and cloud indexing, so you could search across either your desktop local environment and the cloud together. And so that's kind of the holy grail for me, is basically being able to search across both your local and cloud storage and find the things you need so that you can quickly jump to them. And that's what Command-E really solves. Now they're part of the Dropbox team. That makes them a little less desirous for me to be putting all of my data in the hands of Dropbox. But I'm not necessarily against Dropbox. I'm just a little bit more vigilant, I suppose, than the average bear. And so I want to make sure that I'm utilizing tools and feeling safe about it. So we'll see what they do with Dropbox. We'll see how independent the company stays. I would imagine that what Dropbox has done with other programs, other tools that they've purchased, it has been quickly absorbed into the Dropbox ecosystem. So I don't see this necessarily being separate and independent from Dropbox for very long. And if that's the case, then I'm probably going to disconnect and find another tool. And like I said, there are several of them that are out there in the world. And as I come across the ones that I have decided to use, I'll let folks know. But just wanted to let everybody know that they were purchased by Dropbox, since I have made the recommendation about CommandE in the past. Which takes us along to our productivity resources of the week. And so Augusto and I come across many personal productivity tools, apps, and services in and on our personal productivity journeys to put together anything but idle each week. So in this segment, the productivity resources of the week, we each bring you one, either new or old or otherwise, tool we think you might like. And so this week we have two tools as usual. And our first tool is one that I have not used extensively, but I wanted to show everybody so that you could kind of see kind of a new tool in action. This tool is called Rows, and Rows is a spreadsheet technology that allows you to integrate with other tools really simply and easily. So this is really a Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel, Airtable, kind of that kind of competitor, but it's actually really interesting to me because it's seemingly just very simple. So like if you just go here and click on create a new spreadsheet, it actually will give you this set of templates that immediately tells you, hey, would you like to do this thing? So if I wanted to create a trending tweets tracker, it could go ahead and just immediately connect to my Twitter account and then pull that information together and display it. If I wanted to track my Google Analytics data on my website, I could use one of the templates for doing that. If I wanted to connect Slack notifications to Twitter, it can do that kind of stuff. So it tries to, out the gate, make your data useful and applicable to the reason why you're collecting it together. So I just found it really interesting. Again, it's to me brand new, and so I'm just very interested in seeing how Rows starts to put together this level of workflow automation built into the data collection process. It's kind of like, what's the integration, what's the data you want to get out first, and then from there it connects to the data sources necessary. So I found it to be a quite interesting tool, and some of you might actually enjoy and want to check out. Augusto, what is your resource this week?
So my resource this week is called the Bumper Zip Pocket Notebook Belt, or as my friend Art Gill was call it, the fanny pack for the iPad. But the reality is that I got this for my wife for Christmas. She carried one of those lavender notebooks, and I thought, oh, this is great. When you just want to carry a couple more things, this is great. But after I saw her use it, for the people who are looking us in video, I got one for me for the back of my iPad. And it really changed everything because I carry the iPad. That's the main thing I carry. But sometimes I need to carry two more things. And well, where I'm going to carry now, I can put it in there. I can carry a pen all the time in the iPad. I carry some index card. And as I understand that, it looks like a fanny pack, as Art Gilwicks mentioned, it has really changed because now I carry everything. I carry a pair of headphones in there, the two connectors that I want to carry with me, and I don't need to carry anything else. It attached great in the back of my iPad, and it allows me even to have a pen and a couple of index cards. So it's been great for me to have that.
Fantastic, wonderful. And with that takes us out of productivity resources of the week and on to, what are we doing next?
So the next thing we're doing is our topic for this week, our main story for this week.
So our feature story. Great.
Our feature story, it's all about what Apple calls universal control. And universal control basically allows you to go from your Mac and move the mouse and keyboard of the mouse and use it on the iPads, connect to the iPads or another Mac. So basically you can keep your central keyboard and move from machine to machine that are connected. And the article in The Verge called it Apple's most impressive feature in years. I don't know if it's the most impressive feature, but it is incredible. I have two iPads here in my desk, and I can sit in the MacBook Air and move from one to the other. And one of them is high. So it is really nice to be able to use that iPad without moving at all. And even to the point that even that I leave iPad only and the iPad is my main machine, I have a MacBook Air that I use once in a while, and it's been compelling enough that has made me think if I need to change my work around to make the Mac into a place that the iPads are more centric and more comfortable, because it is super powerful to be able to move quickly to the iPad on the left, do something, and come back to what I was doing on the Mac.
So that everybody's aware of what this really is. It basically allows you to have your cursor and keyboard, your mouse and keyboard, move from the edge of your, say, Mac device, and there needs to be a Mac involved with, so there at least
Sadly,
Mac. Yeah, so you must have a Mac running Monterey, Mac OS Monterey, either 12.3 or later. And then you can also pair this with other Macs also running 12.3 or later, or you can run an iPad that is running iPad OS 15.4 or later. This also works with Intel Macs, by the way. So as long as it's running Mac OS Monterey 12.3 or later, then you're capable of doing this. So that means that you can operate both Macs via keyboards. It does not have to be an Apple product keyboard either. It can be any keyboard that you have attached to it, as long as those two operating systems are at their peak and you have at least one Mac involved. Okay. So Julie's asking, so does this mean one iMac Bluetooth keyboard can simultaneously operate two iMacs? That is
yes,
exactly
ma'am.
correct. Yes, yes. So as long as there's a Mac involved and you're on Monterey 12.3 or later, you then can go ahead and move your cursor to the edge, and then it just pops over to the other device, and you'll be able to then utilize that same mouse and keyboard in order to be able to go ahead and do that. Bye, Deb. We'll see you later. And so this is really powerful. I think this is, I would agree with Apple that this is probably one of their most, innovative features for in a very long time. This is certainly beyond what Sidecar does. Sidecar is really just expanding the screen size, allowing you to either extend or mirror your iPad, using your iPad as an extended mirror, or basically as a second monitor. But this really extends the capabilities of your device and means that you don't have to have 4 and 5 keyboards sitting on your desk to operate the same devices that you have sitting on your desk. So I'm really pleased with this idea of universal control, and I'm looking forward to playing with it. And again, I really wish that you were able to use this across all devices, right? So you can't do this if you have 2 iPads and no Mac. You can't do this using your iPhone. This doesn't obviously extend to any Windows or Android devices, which is totally understandable. It doesn't include the Apple Pencil. So there's some limitations here, but if we have the ability to sit down with a keyboard and mouse and have an iMac and a MacBook Pro and an iPad, and just to be able to seamlessly move across those devices, that's a really powerful productivity feature that I don't think we should overlook. And I'm really impressed with Apple being able to bring that to market. So very, very cool.
Yeah, I wish that this is on my wish list. I'm not getting it, but this is on my wish list, is that this year, with the new operating system that is coming for the iPad, we are going to be able to get it from an iPad to another iPad. If they do that, then I can get rid of my MacBook.
And for those who might have the question, you can get rid of them. You can turn off the technology. So if you go into your system preferences under display, you should be able to turn off your the universal control in the Mac, and on the iPad, I believe it's under AirPlay and handoff is in your system settings. You can go in there and turn it off as well. So if you don't want it, you don't need to have it. You do need to have, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and you have to be logged into your Apple ID in order for
They need to share the Apple ID. Yes, they need to share the Apple ID, and they are connected. They don't need to be connected, but they need to be close enough. So I'm guessing they're using somehow Bluetooth or the technology they have to share documents in order to know which machine is close.
Yeah, so just to put a fine point on this, you need to be in the same iCloud account. So you need to be logged into the same iCloud account. Two-factor authentication must be enabled. You have to have Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, enabled and handoff enabled. So all three of those enabled, and the devices need to be within 30 feet of each other. So they need to be able to be within that same space. They can't be tethering. So they can't be tethered, like if your Mac is tethering to the iPad, they can't be tethered. They have to be on the same Wi-Fi network. And so there's some, again, it's like within these limitations, it's still a very,
But
very
it's an
powerful
incredible technology.
Yeah, so I'm pretty impressed with it. I'm like you. I would love to see the ability to have two iPads side by side and just be able to have an external mouse and keyboard operating both of those devices without anything else. That's a really, really nice setup, especially if you have an iPad Pro and say an iPad Air or an iPad 9-inch, and you want to be able to just work on those two devices side by side. That's a really nice setup, and I think that a lot of people will want that.
So
All right.
our next news are the announcements. And I think we should start with announcing our top 10 female experts for 2022.
Yeah, and so I have an image. I know I created it, and we could put this up on screen for folks. Ready? I don't have a drum roll, so we're just going to say we're just going to announce it. But the winner of the top 10, I'm going to put on screen for us, and there it is with 45% of the votes in. Stacey Harmon is our top productivity, technology, and organization expert of 2022. So congratulations to Stacey Harmon. She's an Evernote certified consultant or an Evernote certified expert now, as I am, and is just runs a wonderful program that she calls the Harmon Enterprises Academy that helps Evernoters. So definitely go check her out and what she's doing over there at Harmon Enterprises. And Haley Watts comes in second place, who is for me, I a new person on my list, and she was actually nominated by Grace Marshall, who came in fourth. And here in the audience today is Julie Bestry, who came in third. So congratulations, Julie, on being third at 13% of the vote. And to everybody else who placed in the top 10, we had a tie for 10th place. So there are 11 folks who are on screen, if my math is correct here, but Megan Hyatt Miller and Mel Robbins tied for 10th place, and Gretchen Rubin and Laura Vanderkam tied for what is that? 10, 9, 8, 8th place. So, but congratulations to everybody. We will tweet this out and let everybody know with the podcast release tomorrow morning. So we'll let everybody know about all those things. But it's just really wonderful. This is the second time, this is the second year in a row that we've done this. I'm just really pleased to be able to highlight these wonderful productivity, technology, and organization experts. And we'll probably do it again next year. Why not? It's a lot of fun to bring some voice, some elevation, and some notoriety to these folks.
So,
all right.
We have a couple more announcements. Dieter Bond has left The Verge, and he wrote a farewell letter, really interesting to read. The link is in there. In the important things, or the not important thing, but in the technology area, there is an announcement that I wanted to keep on the announcement, and is that the Fair Repair Act is going to the Senate, and that I think is going to be interesting. Also, Google I/O, it's going to be virtual again, starting May 11, so it's coming.
I'm so excited for this. Yeah.
To do it. For a reminder for our users of Todoist, the Outlook old plugin is going to stop working, so you need to update to the new way to connect to Outlook so you can keep that working. And Michael Hyatt and company changed their names to Full Focus. And finally, there is a link in there for a second batch of at-home COVID tests that you can get for free. And finally, there is an app called Gyroscope that I hope Ray knows more than the app than I. But Gyroscope, apparently, for what I understood on how I got the information, is stopped having that free plan, went for a full tier paid, and now they're back having a free plan for people. And what I was able to research about it seems pretty interesting app. Again, talking about health, your watch, and your technology to help you balance all that.
Yeah, so that everybody's aware, Gyroscope is inside of the category of applications that are passive data trackers for your health and productivity. And so what it did is similar to Instant and Rescue Time and some of the other applications. It sits in the background and it monitors what you're doing on your phone and some of the telemetry that is happening on your phone, so that it's able to tell you what you've done, right? Help categorize those items. I use an application called Rise, R-I-Z-E, and I should have saved that for a productivity resource one week. But but Rise is really great, and but it's a subscription, just like Gyroscope. Gyroscope was free, like Instant is, and then all of a sudden they, I'm sure like any business, they have to make money, so they put out a subscription plan, and it just wasn't worth it for me to pay for it, and so they went to this paid plan. But now they've launched, and now they have much more in the health space, like a whole bunch more that they've done in the health space, which is really interesting. And they've put out a free plan, so definitely check it out if you're interested in the quantified self movement. I'm a Q selfer, and so I love the idea of being able to just do that level of both active and passive data tracking. And so that's really what Gyroscope is. It gives you that ability. They're very Apple focused, so this is iOS and kind of Apple focused platform, whereas Instant, if you go to, I think it's instant.today or instant app.today or something like that, they're the more Androidy focused application for that kind of passive data tracking. But it's just useful to be able to have a third party kind of collect the data and then crunch the numbers and give you dashboards to tell you, hey, how much did you walk today? What did you do with your applications today? Where did you spend most of your time on this or that? And it helps to give you some level of data in that regard. Any other announcements, Augusto?
No, as you said, and then there were two.
That's it. We have covered the productivity and related technology news this week. Thanks to our live audience for joining us, as always, to join in the festivities to celebrate the top 10 female productivity technology and organization experts this year. And so congratulations to the winners, including, of course, especially Julie Bestry, who's here with us today. So congratulations, Julie, again. And thank you, Augusto, for putting together the show this and every week. Making sure that this show comes together is really on your shoulders. And so thank you for doing that.
It's my pleasure always.
All right, everybody. On anythingbutidle.com, that is the place to go for our show notes. So if you're watching us live tomorrow, when the show releases as a podcast, the show notes will be there with links to all of our stories, our productivity resources of the week, our extra stories we don't cover during this time, because if not, our show would be 3 or 4 hours long, and you probably want to actually get other things done in your day. But we also have text transcripts to read and download there as well. So after the podcast episodes goes out and you go to anythingbutidle.com/101, if somewhere along the line we've missed a story, feel free to visit that page and let us know if we've missed something, because it's a possibility. You can either tweet and DM us or DM us using our Twitter handle @anythingbutidle. You can use our contact form on the website. You can just leave a comment directly on the episode page and let us know that as well. And we have plenty of other ways in which you can engage with us. If you go to anythingbutidle.com/community, you will actually find the Personal Productivity Club channel that is dedicated to this podcast. So if you want to keep up with the news and want to let us know about upcoming news that we should share, go to anythingbutidle.com/community and go ahead and join the channel. And in there is where we post the episodes, of course. We also post the events for our upcoming live events like this, our live recordings that we do. When I remember, but there are all kinds of things that we would want to post in Anything But Idle in the channel there. So go ahead and join that group so that when we do post things, you'll get them first. If this is your first time watching the live stream, feel free to click the subscribe button so you'll get notified when we do go live. If we don't post it as an event and it's kind of iffy thing, depending upon the week and work and everything else like that. But if you are subscribed, you'll get that notification in YouTube for those purposes. If you're listening to the podcast, feel free to add us to the podcast app of choice, and you'll get it downloaded each week when we do the episodes. And feel free to rate and review us in your favorite podcast app of choice. That really helps us to grow the personal productivity listening community. And so thank you to those who have left reviews and ratings, and feel free to leave one yourself. With that, we will see you all next time on Anything But Idle. Here's to your productive life. Take care, everybody.